Thousands of British flights have been hit by suspected Russian jamming. Now, this is something a Sun investigation has revealed. We've been looking into open source flight logs where aircraft reveal their own positions and they reveal whether or not their satnavs, their GPS onboard systems, are working. And the results have been quite staggering. Over the last 8 months, more than 2,300 Ryanair flights reported problems, particularly over the Baltic region, which is where we focused on. More than 1,200 Wizz Air flights reported similar interference, more than 80 British Airways jets, and a handful as well from EasyJet, TUI and Jet2. So of the UK's 7 biggest carriers, the big 7 airlines, it was only Virgin Atlantic that was not affected, and that's simply a function of the fact that Virgin Atlantic doesn't fly over the Baltic, the region that we focused on. Now, GPS jamming works in 2 ways. Either the person or the instruments behind the jamming can drown out the authentic signals from satellites so that the receivers can't hear them. And those are the receivers like most people have in their phones, but aircraft have them in the cockpits as well. The other method of interference is spoofing, and this is slightly more sinister. That involves sending fake signals so that the device, the GPS-enabled device, thinks it's somewhere that it's not. And industry sources have described this as extremely dangerous because while planes can continue to fly safely without GPS, there are other ways of navigating. This system, these satellite navigation systems, are what many aircraft, if not most aircraft, use to plot their routes to fly from waypoints from point A to B to C, to know where they are. And of course, it's also what they use to tell other aircraft where they are. And if those aircraft don't know precisely where they are, particularly in crowded skies, then that is a serious cause for concern. Indeed, the European Aviation Safety Authority said this poses significant challenges for aviation safety. They described in January a sharp rise in what they called attacks against these global navigation systems. Now, they didn't say who was behind it, but we know anecdotally a number of authorities have pointed the finger at Russia, not least aides to Britain's Defence Secretary Grant Shapps. I was with him on his plane, his Royal Air Force jet, last month when it was jammed as it flew back from Poland, and that's really what triggered us to look into this problem and see how widespread it was. There are 3 hotspots of jamming across Europe, all in Eastern Europe. The Baltic is perhaps the most intense. There is also regular jamming at the entrance to the Black Sea and also in the Eastern Mediterranean. Cyprus, parts of Turkey and Israel all affected by that. Now, the way this research worked is we sifted through, with the help of an organisation called GPS Jam, we sifted through huge amounts of data. Aircraft, when they're flying along, transmit signals known as Automated Surveillance Dependent Broadcasts, ADSB. And in those broadcasts, those are the signals which reveal their locations, but they also include an estimate of how accurate that aircraft thinks its navigation data is at that particular point in time. Now, a run of low accuracy readings, a run of readings where the aircraft believes its GPS or its satnav is not working, is indicative of jamming. Now, the levels of jamming fluctuate day to day, and you can see those levels of jamming if you visit gpsjam.org. You can also check, if you go on our website, see whether a destination you have flown to is at risk of jamming. Now, most of the cities, most airports across Europe never encounter this, but a number of them in eastern Poland, in the Baltic states, in Finland, in Turkey, in Cyprus, encounter it very, very regularly, almost on a daily basis. And indeed, I've spoken to top UK defence officials some years ago who accused Russia of deliberately jamming GPS signals over the Royal Air Force Base in Akrotiri in southern Cyprus. So this has been a long-standing problem, but it's getting worse. Our research showed that last year, at the end of last year, the British airlines we were looking at were encountering about 50 cases of jamming or interference a week. That has skyrocketed over the last couple of months. It's now there's now been a seven-fold increase, some 350 jamming incidents reported on a weekly basis just last month. And that is what has sparked warnings from across the aviation industry, from the European Aviation Safety Authority. They held a meeting earlier this year with IATA, the industry body that represents airlines. The message from airlines is that, of course, they have other means of plotting their route, other means of navigating, and they insist that air travel remains one of the, if not the safest, means of travel. But nonetheless, a huge cause for concern that Russia continues to do this on such a huge scale, described by a defence source to me as wildly irresponsible, and one that it could put civilian lives at risk.